Raise your hand if you've been to Israel. When in Israel, raise your hand if you've been to Hebron. When Abraham lived on Hebron, it was then called Kiryat Arba, meaning city of the four, as it is built on four hills. Hebron is by many considered quite a special place. Even Arabs consider Hebron quite a special place. They call it Al-Khalil, or more completely, Al-Khalil Ar-Rahman. That means the beloved of the merciful, which is a reference to Abraham. Abraham is our great-great-great and a lot more great-grandfather, and he is theirs too. Abraham was not just the father of Isaac, but he was also the father of Ishmael. But this week's Torah portion is Chayei, the life of Sarah, the life of Isaac's mother, not the life of Ishmael's mother. This Torah portion is when Sarah's life ends, and Abraham has to figure out where to bury her. There's a reason that this Torah portion mentioned that Abraham had other wives, not just Sarah and Hagar, but Keturah too, because the wife that was his true love was Sarah, and not the others. When Abraham later in this Torah portion dies, he is to be buried with Sarah, his true love, not with the others. From this week's Torah portion of Chayei Sarah, Abraham purchases the cave of Machpelah and the field there in Hebron. But he doesn't just purchase it for Sarah. He purchases it also for him to be buried with his love. And also, he purchases the property with enough space for their future generations to be buried with them. My great-great-grandpa and my great-great-grandma and my great-grandma and my great-grandma and other family from their generations and since then are all buried in the Riverside Cemetery. And we have room in our family plot there for my grandpa's generation and my dad's generation, and maybe even I'll be there many years from now. This is all there for all of us, because those earlier family members thought ahead and planned ahead for us all. And that's what Abraham was doing here. Abraham purchased this land to bury his wife Sarah, whose life ended at the beginning of this Torah portion, but he didn't need all that room for her. And he didn't need all that room for her in him. He was planning responsibly ahead for the next generations too. The special place of Hebron is in what is considered today the West Bank, which some think actually was by the entrance to the Garden of Eden, and some think that Adam and Eve were also buried in another part of that cave too, so many years before. Hebron is southwest of Jerusalem, in the southern hills of Judea. Some Arabs here consider Hebron an important part of their history, and some, though, more wanted, as they just do not want us Jews to have it, as is the way it is with so much else. Hebron, though, is not just the burial place of Abraham and Sarah, or maybe Adam and Eve too. It is in this Torah portion, Chayei Sarah, where in the beginning Sarah passes and is buried in Hebron, and at the end Abraham passes and is buried in Hebron. But first, after Sarah passes, Abraham is faced with the reality of having to decide where Sarah will be buried. With Abraham legally buys his property in Hebron, the cave of Machpelah, Me'erat ha-Machpelah. Ephron the Hittite offers to just give it to him, but Abraham wanted to honorably buy it right and make it legal for no one to question. He buys more property than he needs just for Sarah, and he buys more and more than he needs for just Sarah and him. He plans ahead, and he buys property for the generations to come. And just like my ancestors did for generations after that, and maybe even me, where we bury our loved ones is important. Such places should be peaceful and treated with respect. I like when Dad takes me, and even when Grandpa and Dad take me, to visit our family at our family plot. I like to learn stories about them, and I even like to talk to them. It's good to learn about our family from the past, and it's good to connect with our family from the past. Someday, I hope I can visit our further back family from the past. At the cave of Machpelah in Hebron, in Israel, it is at the beginning of this Shabbat's Torah reading, when Sarah passes and is buried in the cave of Machpelah, and at the end of this reading, Abraham passes, and he is then buried in the cave of Machpelah. Later, when the time comes, the next generation, Isaac and Rebekah are buried there. Then, even later, when the time comes, the next generation, Jacob and Leah are buried there. Where our loved ones are buried is important to us Jews. It is customary to visit our loved ones, to reflect on our loved ones, to connect with the generations that came before us and brought us where we are, and to spark us to focus on where we are going. That's why I talk to my great-grandpa Sal and others when I visit our family plot. It's nice to visit our loved ones where they're buried. Our family has the large plot at the Riverside Cemetery, and we do make a point to go visit our loved ones there. We visited before the high holidays. We visited before the festival of Sukkot. We will visit for a yard site coming just before Hanukkah. We will be sure to get back to visit again before Passover and again before Shavuot and more. Generations of my ancestors are buried at Riverside Cemetery, and generations of our patriarchs and matriarchs are buried in Hebron. Generations after our patriarchs and matriarchs were buried in Hebron after the Exodus from Egypt. Hebron was one of the cities visited by the scouts sent by Moses. Joshua fought the Battle of Ajalon against the king of Hebron and other Amorite chiefs. Generations later, King David went to Hebron. He was anointed king of Israel there, and he made it his capital for several years. Muslims, though, took control of Hebron for most of the years to follow. Then, from 1920 to 1948, Hebron became part of a British Mandate of Palestine. During the Arab riots of 1929, dozens of Hebron Jews were killed. The rest then left this troubled area, with things getting worse with the Arab uprising of 1936 to 1939. From 1948 to 1949, Hebron was part of the Arab wars against Israel. Hebron was annexed by Jordan in 1950. When Israel was attacked in what became the Six-Day War, 1967, Hebron became part of the West Bank territory of Israel. After hundreds of years of Jews being denied access, the tombs of the patriarchs were finally then opened to all worshippers. Jewish and Muslim services were both then allowed in the cave. Religious Jews built a renewed Jewish presence in Hebron. Arabs there, though, did not want to share Hebron, and violent conflicts escalated. While Hebron has such deep significance to our people, this area has been plagued with extreme conflict. This rather historic area is particularly poor and run down, but there have been efforts to revitalize the old city of Hebron. There was even the establishment of Hebron University there in 1972. And Palestine Polytechnic University was established there in 1978. With the negotiations of 1997, part of Hebron was put under the Palestinian Authority, and part remained under Israeli control. Hebron has seen more than a share of conflict. A few years ago, my dad had the chance to go to Hebron with an archaeological team, but they were unable to visit the cave of Machpelah when Arabs started throwing rocks at his Jewish group. It is such a shame that Jews have been attacked and kept from visiting this special place where generations of our ancestors are buried. Where we bury our loved ones is important. Such places should be peaceful and treated with respect. Anyone who makes violence there shouldn't be allowed there. Those who want to visit in peace and honor their loved ones should be able to visit without being attacked. I really hope someday I will be able to visit Hebron. and visit the cave of Machpelah, and visit Abraham and all the others buried there. And for now, at least I can visit Riverside Cemetery and visit Great-Grandpa Saul and others, and all the others buried there. It's important to visit and honor our loved ones, and maybe they can look down on us and smile, and maybe even bless us, or ask God to bless us. I'm the newest link in a great chain from the past, and I want to be a strong link. And with reading Chayei, this Shabbat's Torah portion that means the life of Sarah, there's a lot for us to think about. Sarah may be in the past, and she may have passed on, but she also can live on. If the generations after her, like us, stay connected with her, and visiting with our loved ones in the cemetery can help with that. By remembering them, their lives can kind of continue. So I'm the newest link in a great chain from the past, and I want to be a strong link, keeping the memories of Great-Grandpa Saul and others alive. I can kind of keep him alive, especially as I learn stories from Dad and Grandpa and others. And so, with Chayei this Shabbat, we keep her alive kind of too. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom.